Hi, this is Jack from the Spitfire Audio Customer Experience team. In this video, I'm going to be demonstrating the user interface controls for the Whitacre Evo grid. Now, as I've loaded the plugin, you'll notice that it doesn't have a preset available by default. This is actually a personal preference of mine, which you can set in the settings. This is demonstrated at the end of the video. From this drop-down menu, choose a preset of your choice. Using the filters on the left-hand side, you can refine which presets are available to you. Notice how there are three different controls next to the patch name. The star enables us to favourite particular presets, which we can then filter using the starred view. The play button allows us to preview a sound. And the information button gives a little bit of information describing what this patch is. Next to the title of that patch, we have the left and right chevrons, which allow us to increment and decrement a patch. And we also have a save option. This means once you've modified any controls on the user interface, we can then save that as our own user patch, which we can then load up again from this user filter at the bottom. The button on the right allows us to expand the user interface and also collapse it. There are three controls on this main user interface. The control on the left is expression, which is mapped to CC11 and is a volume control that operates within the master volume of the library. We use this hand in hand with the dynamics control. Now, dynamics is how we crossfade the different velocity layers within this library. The final control is reverb. By clicking this control, we can see there are another 5 available options. We have an ADSR, which is attack, decay, sustain and release. The attack time determines how long the sound fades in for. After the attack, we have decay time and then the sustain level. Decay is how long it takes for the sound to reach the sustain level from the attack level. So, if I was to have a relatively long attack, and then we have quite a small decay time, and we set the overall sustain of the note to quite a small value, we'll hear that the sound will fade in, and then it will quite quickly drop to a very small but continuous volume. The release time is how long it takes for the sound to fade to 0 after you've let go of a key. Finally in this list, we have the tape saturation. At the bottom of the user interface, we have the pegboard. Now the pegboard is where we choose which evolution is assigned to which note. So up the y-axis, we have 4 different types of evolution. We have the clashes, the episodic, the dynamic, and also the simple evolutions. And across the x-axis, we have the key range. Now you can either click in the evolutions to the corresponding key range, and you'll note that the colour of the evolutions changes on the keyboard at the bottom, so we can quickly identify which notes are triggering which evolution. On the left hand side of the pegboard, we can decide whether we want to randomise the sound. Now we can do this in a number of different ways. We can either randomise by simple, which will only choose the simple evolutions, likewise with dynamic, episodic, or clashes. The Feeling Lucky button at the very top of this list will randomise with any Evo available to us on the pegboard. The Visible option randomises the Evos based on what is visible on the pegboard currently. The Walk option randomises each playable range up or down by 1 evolution. Now, on the right hand side of this pegboard, we have 3 further options for each evolution. We can either turn on the effects by clicking the tick box or turn them off. We can have a volume set for each evolution, or we can also pan that evolution. Directly above the pegboard, we have the view selector. By clicking Effects, we can see all the parameters that are available to us to control the effects of this library. We have three options: tape saturation, delay, and reverb. The tape saturation has a gain, a warmth, and a high frequency roll-off control. The delay has a time in milliseconds, a damp control, pan, feedback, and also a return. Now, it's important with these returns, same with reverb, that these are turned up in order for you to hear the effect. Now, a nice little touch to this library is when you hold Option and right-click a parameter, you can assign it to the knob in a particular slot. So if I was to choose Assign Delay to slot 1, note now when I click on the knob wheel at the very top of the library, delay is now the first parameter in my list and no longer reverb. The next tab along is the signal mixer. The signal mixer is where we can control the volume of different microphones or bring different mics into play. So we can bring in the ambient mics, dial in a little bit of close mic. We can also turn these on and off by toggling these little switches at the bottom, or we can drag these faders all the way to the bottom and they will turn off automatically. The chevrons below the signal mixer will enable us to see different microphone options which are currently available to us. To the left of the signal mixer, we have an option where we can save presets and also load presets. This is really useful for when you found that microphone blend that you really like and you wish to assign it across various different versions of this plugin that you have loaded within your session. To the right of the signal mixer, we have the ADSR, where we can see a little bit more information about the values we have currently assigned. And to the right of this, we have a lock control, which enables us to lock all these controls in place. Any one of these controls can be right-clicked, and we can learn or remove MIDI CC automation, which is incredibly useful when you have a MIDI controller and you want to assign a parameter on that controller to a corresponding control on the user interface. At the very top of the user interface, we have the top menu. Now here we have a little LED where we can see as an indication as to whether a sound is still loading. If it is still loading, it will flicker red and green. If it's solid green, the patch is fully loaded and it's ready to play. We can see the CPU content, we can see the disk, whether it's struggling or not, or we can see the memory, which is how much samples are currently loaded into RAM from that particular patch. We have the voices, which is how many voices we're currently triggering when we play the keys, and we also have a refresh option. Further, we can assign the MIDI channel, and then we also have options for tune, pan, and also the master volume of the library. Now, finally, there are two more options on this library. We have the plugin options where we can control the velocity curve of the library, and we can also reset and clear any CC mappings. The cogwheel allows us to control and set the global settings for this plugin. We have the copy settings option, but under the interface, things get more interesting. So we have the help text, which enables us to turn this on or off. This is displayed in the bottom left-hand corner of the plugin and will reveal information about a particular parameter when you hover your mouse over that parameter. Next in the list, we have the default size. Now, if you choose collapsed here, when you open the plugin up, it will look like this in the collapsed state. Now, if you were to have it in expanded, it will look like it currently does on screen when you open it up. The default scale enables you to set the default size of the user interface. Following this, we have the automatic unload with mixer fader option. Now, this particular control is how we determine whether a microphone can be turned on or off by dragging it to the bottom. So as you saw before, I dragged it to the bottom and the microphone was unloaded. If this is turned off, you'll simply just turn the volume of the microphone all the way down. However, that sample content will still be in your RAM. The gain units determine whether the master volume at the top of the library is displayed in a percentage or decibels. And finally in this list we have the Make Controllers Global function, which enables all the common controllers to be transferred when changing different techniques of a patch. You will notice that on the interface page of the settings, I actually have a few more different options. These options actually don't affect the Eric Whitacre Evo Grid, and as a result, for your released version, they will be taken out. Under the audio options, we can limit the maximum number of voices, or we can increase or decrease the preload size, which is how much content is going to be going into your RAM, and we also have a stream buffer size. For those who aren't running SSD drives, I recommend increasing these. The final settings option is the plugin option. Here we can choose which preset the library can load with by default. If you have any further questions, please reach out to us at spitfireaudio.com/support. Thanks.